I've known the actress Grace for 22 years. To my surprise, she has officially announced her relationship with Martin. What I didn't expect was that all it took was for me to ask Grace a simple question. Why haven't you replied to my messages lately? Aren't we best friends? Suddenly, I became the target of online scorn as the so-called third wheel. Martin went to great lengths to slander and defame me, but what he doesn't realize is that I'm not just Grace's so-called best friend. I'm also the capital behind her success. Grace is my childhood sweetheart, and I'm the one who helped her rise to fame. Chapter 1. Martin, the top celebrity, posted a lengthy message detailing how he and Grace got together through a dating reality show. The photo accompanying it shows them kissing at sunset. Fans flooded the comments with messages like, "Help, the ship I've been shipping has become real," and "Grace and my bro are such a perfect match." While the comments were full of fan blessings, another set of chat logs was also released by Martin. They were my conversations with Grace. A month ago, I had asked her, "Why haven't you reached out? Aren't we best friends?" She didn't respond. A week later, I messaged again, "Your birthday is coming up. Should I celebrate with you?" Still no reply. Then, on the day they made their announcement, Grace finally responded. She wrote, "I've thought it through. I only see you as an older brother. Martin is the one I want to spend my life with. Please don't contact me anymore." With those chat logs released, I became the focus of the internet. Social media and Douyin were flooded with insults from their fans. Disgusting. Asking someone's girlfriend out in the name of friendship. What century is this? Still playing the male best friend card? I always felt something was off about him. He even posted daily life with Grace on Douyin, definitely trying to ride the hype. What's this guy's name again? Colin. The fans knew who I was and weren't surprised. They'd recognized me long ago. Although I'm not a celebrity and prefer to keep a low profile, I still have a bit of a name online. It's not because I'm an influencer. On the contrary, when you search for me, the only thing that comes up is Grace's friend. That's right. The reason many internet users know me is that I'm the only male friend Grace has ever introduced publicly. Our photos used to be pinned on her social media with the caption, "Childhood Sweethearts." Chapter 2. Now, our photo has become the tattoo on her fair arm, "Love Martin Forever." The words, "Childhood Sweethearts," have transformed into, "I will love you forever." Due to the loud outcry from fans, Martin finally issued a response. He wrote, "Publishing the chat logs was just to warn someone that my woman isn't someone anyone can just touch. Some people say I incite fans to cyberbully. I want to ask how I've done that. I just posted what he said. But everyone, please don't go and insult anyone. Cyberbullying is wrong." Although this statement didn't stop the fans' criticisms, it did attract a number of true fans. They all said, "As expected of my idol, so powerful in protecting his girlfriend. Who wouldn't love such a boyfriend? We support you, bro." Yet none of this stirred a single ripple in my heart. Aside from the official announcement about her tattoo, Grace had no further response. As a social media star relying solely on fan support, Martin's eagerness to build a wife-protecting persona at my expense is truly foolish. After all, the so-called nonsense ship was initially my idea for a variety show effect. Maybe Grace didn't tell him. I'm not only Grace's so-called best friend but also the capital behind her. Grace is my childhood sweetheart, and I'm the one who helped her rise to fame. Chapter 3. When she was 8, she moved into my house. Her mother was our family's nanny, Aunt Lou. Aunt Lou was the kindest woman in the world, but unfortunately, her life was tough. Her husband died of cancer, leaving her with a daughter and massive debts. My mother felt sorry for her and made her my personal nanny, with a salary of over $10,000, double that of other nannies. I was born with emotional disorders and couldn't sense what happiness or liking felt like. I remember Aunt Lou often mentioning Grace. She would say, "Colin, you're so young. How come you never laugh or cry? I really want you to meet my daughter. She's the sunshine of my life. She would surely melt your heart. Look, isn't she beautiful?" In the photo, the girl indeed smiled like the blazing sun. I unconsciously touched the corners of my mouth, which showed no sign of movement. What would that kind of smile feel like? I didn't know. Later, childhood memories became too blurry. I only remember my mother was pregnant again, and my father was very happy. My mother went to the most luxurious maternity center, and Aunt Lou went to take care of her. But then, an unexpected fire broke out at the center. Aunt Lou saved my mother from the fire, ensuring both her and my sister's lives, but she was severely burned. Despite my parents' best efforts and countless specialists brought in to treat Aunt Lou, she still couldn't survive. Thus, Grace became an orphan without parents. I crouched by the wall, secretly watching. Grace was held in her mother's arms. They were both crying for Aunt Lou's death. My heart felt as if it were tightly grasped by a pair of hands. Yet not a single tear overflowed from my eyes. Chapter 4. Martin had starred in several decent movies. On variety shows, he was quick-witted, fiercely retorting against bad women, which won him many fans. The reason I noticed him was that he had a ship vibe that matched Grace perfectly. So, I arranged for my agent to bring Grace onto that show. Sure enough, it went just as I anticipated. While cooking together, Grace pouted. insisting she wanted to eat, and Martin, acting like a warm boyfriend, comforted her. It'll be ready soon. While playing games, when Grace faced a punishment and shed tears, Martin shielded her, saying, "I'm your captain. I have to stand in front of you." Grace then gently squeezed beside him, hugging his arm and said, "Through storms and heavy rains, I'll bear it with you." At that moment, the comments were going wild. Some commented, "Ah, look at Grace, willing to face storms together. That's a true leading lady. Mutual love. I'm shipping it. I'm waving the flag for this ship." Chapter 5. Now that I think about it, I really did bring a stone to crush my own foot. In the ambiguous atmosphere and the fans' cheers, they truly sparked something. Grace believes that Martin will be happy for her and share in her sorrows. That's what love is. But for someone like me, who was born without emotions, even after spending 20 years achieving her dreams and accompanying her, it never counts for anything. When did I realize something was off between them? That day, I went to the program team to see her, and when I saw that scene, I stopped in my tracks. Martin wore a stern face, looking indignant as he said, "Grace, what's your relationship with Colin? What does it mean that he has someone bring you food every day?" He was chastising her out of frustration. "Grace, I detest male best friends the most. I'm telling you, don't be fooled by him. He seems like he's good to you, but he's just a central air conditioner, an emotional fraud." He paused and continued, "Are we shipping together, or are you and him?" Grace pursed her lips and replied, "Of course it's us." I silently set down my lunchbox and left. Our relationship has always been like this, clearly within reach, yet separated by an entire world. Emotional fraud and central air conditioner. I didn't know I could have such nicknames. My parents treated Grace like their own daughter. Everything about her was equal to me and my sister. When we were in high school, because of my emotional disorder, no one wanted to get close to me. Few people talked to me, let alone played with me. It was Grace who squeezed me into her circle. They would jump rope and talk about romance novels while I sat to the side, staring into space. My favorite thing was looking at the sky, watching the big clouds during the day and meditating under the starry sky at night. But for some reason, I always unconsciously searched for Grace in the crowd. When she smiled, her eyes curved like crescent moons. She really looked like a little sun. Chapter 6. Grace's first boyfriend became my only bro at that time. That day, Grace introduced him to me, saying, "This is David, a year older than us but in the same grade." I suddenly felt a bit flustered and didn't know why I bowed to David. I said, "Bro, I'm Colin." It was a strange feeling. It was the first emotion I had ever experienced, which I called loss. From that day on, I had an extra friend. David was cheerful. He asked, "Colin, did you grow up with Grace? I heard your parents adopted her." I nodded. "Yeah, that's right." David then asked, "Bro, why do you always stare at the sky? Don't you think the cheerleaders are all really hot?" I replied, "Maybe, but I prefer looking at the sky. The sky is beautiful. Whether it's overcast or clear, it expresses emotions in its own way." David looked at me thoughtfully, smiled, and patted my shoulder, then turned to look at the sky. After a moment, he said, "Colin, don't you think Grace is like a little sun?" I paused for a second and nodded, replying, "Yeah." Chapter 7. I sipped the coffee handed to me by my assistant while scrolling through doing videos. Today's trending topic was about me again. Explosive. The male best friend of the best actress and the little princess of the solar group suspected of attending a banquet together. It was a blurry photo, barely showing the faces of the two people. One of them was indeed me. The comments from the fans exploded. They all commented, "This guy is really disgusting. Isn't he a scumbag? Over there, he's trying to curry favor with the best actress. And here, he's dating the little princess. The little girl won't fall for that, right?" Some also said, "Can he really win over the solar princess? He's too full of himself. She's the daughter of the richest family in City A. +1. It said the princess is also a true fan of our Martin, investing $200 million in his new movie." At this moment, Martin also posted on Douyin a self-shot rap video, but one line of the lyrics was, "What's mine you can't take, loser." I was speechless. This silly bird was once again establishing his domineering husband persona. The fans ate it up, continually posting on my social media. My secretary, hearing the nonsense from the marketing accounts on my phone, looked apologetic and said, "Law, it's my negligence. I'll investigate the media that leaked this photo right away." I replied, "It's fine, just some clueless newcomers. Director Ma invited me to participate in their variety show." "Right." Reply that I agreed. The secretary was taken aback, looking at me in surprise, saying, "Law, you." In the past, I had always shut out the media to avoid any information about my identity leaking, because Grace didn't like it. She didn't want to be seen as a woman who climbed up by relying on a man. Now that Grace had made an official announcement, the famous variety director sensed an unprecedented business opportunity. For the newly launched travel variety show, he specifically invited me and the little princess of the solar group. Of course, the regular guests wouldn't be absent either. Chapter 8. The day of my first direct confrontation with Martin finally arrived. On the day of the show's premiere, the sound of a Ferrari engine grew louder from afar. Martin, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, waved to the camera, radiating confidence and charm. Grace stepped out of the passenger seat and looped her arm through his. What a golden couple. The fans in the comments went wild, exclaiming, "I'm so jealous I could scream. Ah, they're perfect together." Grace. This was our first encounter since our fallout. I frowned. That was the car I bought for Grace, which she ended up giving to Martin. Suddenly, I recalled 3 months ago when Grace held up her phone to me. She said, "Colin, I've recently found a new car that I really like." I casually asked, "Since when do you like black cars? Didn't you used to say that all cars besides black ones were ugly?" She replied, "Tastes change. Stop asking so many questions. Don't you think black suits me?" I nodded and said, "All right, I'll take you to pick it up tomorrow." Now, it seems she probably wanted to buy it to give to Martin. The camera abruptly focused on me, capturing my complex expression as I looked at Grace. In the comments, people wrote, "Can this scumbag just leave already? He's so annoying to look at." The reason I agreed to join this show is simple. Our drama was at a peak, and any good investor would want to maximize the value of that traffic. I particularly wanted to see what Grace would make of herself without me. After all, an explosion of popularity is a double-edged sword. Used well, it can make you, but if it backfires, it's nothing short of destruction. Before I could even engage with Martin, he buzzed over like a fly, deliberately sitting near me on the plane to our destination and, in a low mocking tone, said, "So, you're Colin. I've heard Grace mention you, but man, after all these years, how come you're still stuck at the bottom? How about calling me bro, and I'll introduce you to some directors. Maybe you can land some extra roles." Grace bit her lip in silence. Chapter 9. I replied calmly, "You should keep those hard-won resources for yourself, but, could you speak up? Why do you sound so weak? Like you're out of breath. Someone might think you're about to keel over." With that, I closed my eyes to rest. Carolina, who had been scrolling on her phone, chimed in, "Yeah, Martin, try not to stay up too late. Don't overdo it." Martin gritted his teeth, saying, "Ms. Sue, we're partners here. No need to be so harsh." Carolina was, of course, the little princess of the Solar Group. The Solar Group had indeed invested in a movie starring Martin, but it was simply a business investment. Martin's company, however, exploited it to its fullest in marketing, stirring up rumors about them. Naturally, Carolina resented him for it. Grace said flatly, "Mr. Law should take care of himself. You always look so drained. Who knows who will burn out first?" I turned to look at Grace. Recalling the year, she said, "I want to be an actress. Colin, will you support me?" I unhesitatingly said I would. Her eyes shone as she promised, "When I make it big, I won't be like other artists who turn their backs on people. I'll openly acknowledge our relationship." She kept that promise. When she won her first rookie award, she mentioned my name in her acceptance speech. Her fans all said that Grace gave me popularity. No one knew that I had spent 10 years paving the way for her. Carolina suddenly set down her phone, smiled at Grace with a knowing look, showing her little tiger teeth, and said, "I think Colin looks great just like this." Very cool. But Grace, haven't you been getting older these past few years? You used to sweep awards, and now you haven't won a single one. Grace's face immediately darkened. Carolina giggled, winking at me, like a cat waiting to have its belly scratched. Many don't know that Carolina was a close friend of my younger sister growing up. The Sue family had her stay with us for a long time. So Carolina is like a little sister I watched grow up. As my sister put it, Carolina agreed to join the show this time just to help me vent my frustration. Chapter 10. Working Abroad is a new variety show by our company in collaboration with director Ma. They invited guests from various fields, including celebrities, influencers, entrepreneurs, and athletes. The guests are paired up into male-female ships to travel abroad while earning money to cover their food and lodging. The team with the most savings at the end wins. Martin got his wish and was paired with Grace. He flashed me a smug, disdainful smile. Carolina sneaked over to ask, "Director Ma, if I sponsor 30 million, can I team up with Colin?" Director Ma replied, "No." She asked again, "How about 50 million? "No." 100 million, Director Ma said. "Come on, now, if you keep this up, I'll have to contact Mr. Sue." Carolina sighed, stuck her tongue out at me, and whispered a bunch of warnings before finally going off to find her assigned male partner. Later, this part aired unedited in the first episode. Online, people commented, "Why does the princess hit on everyone?" Starting to dislike her. Others said, "Ha ha ha, as expected from a wealthy princess, heartlessly rich." Just as I was feeling bored, staring up at the sky, a figure approached me. A cool voice reached my ears as she said, "Colin, we're on the same team." She blocked the sun, standing backlit so I couldn't see her face, only a faintly outlined, delicate silhouette. She said, "Mr. Law, long time no see." It took me a few seconds to recognize her. It was Selena. She wore a champagne-colored, waist-cinching dress, with flowing, translucent sleeves and a belt outlining her soft curves. Her hair was elegantly pinned, with a few strands falling casually around her ears, accentuating her crescent-shaped, charming eyes. Her nose was subtly high, and the corners of her mouth slightly upturned, giving her an aura of elusive allure. I averted my gaze, wondering what brought her here. Where did she even come from? Chapter 11. The destination for this trip was a coastal city in Country M. Martin was full of confidence. He boasted that he had quickly risen to be one of the highest-paid stars, so earning a bit of cash would be no problem. He took Grace by the hand, performing on the beach, one singing and the other dancing energetically. I noticed Grace occasionally glancing over at us. I thought that her surprise at seeing Selena was probably no less than mine. At that moment, Selena and I were walking side by side on the sand. The atmosphere was unbearably awkward, so I broke the silence. I didn't expect you to come. Selena was the most formidable opponent I'd ever encountered. The president of the country's largest entertainment company. Back when I was just starting, Grace was stifled by her and couldn't get any resources. Later, as my company began to take shape, I could offer Grace more resources, but she was still overshadowed by top-tier artists from the Yi family. If I hadn't exhausted my financial resources to help Grace make connections over the years, she would have long been swallowed by her past rivals. I knew that in the film industry, I couldn't outrun Selena. If Grace kept on this path, her hard-won reputation as best actress would undoubtedly crumble. So, I wanted her to transition into variety shows. That's why I sifted through countless profiles and chose Martin. After a long silence, Selena finally spoke slowly. Mr. Law, there's something I'm curious about. You're the least emotionally driven person I've ever met. So why would someone like you still end up betrayed? I was momentarily speechless as I met her cool, elegant gaze. Now that Grace was no longer in my life, it felt like a massive burden had been lifted. It turns out that Selena and I could actually walk together in peace. I said, all right, let's not talk about that, Ms. Yi. Let's discuss some ways to make money. But she suddenly stopped in her tracks, turning back to look at me intently, her eyes shining like stars as she said, word by word, together, we could buy this whole city. I was speechless. What kind of thought process did she have? Chapter 12. I sighed and explained. I meant what we could do to cover dinner tonight. She pursed her lips, somewhat displeased, and said, I'm not sure what's best either. Do you have any ideas? Self-made Mr. Law. I nodded, looking off into the distance, where the sky was split in two, one half deep, the other bright. Selena's gaze shifted toward Grace and Martin, who were performing on the beach and had attracted a crowd of onlookers. She said, Mr. Law, don't you think they look well matched? I looked at her, puzzled. She continued, as if talking to herself. They're well matched because they're the same kind of people. I didn't comment. Was Selena here just to ridicule me? But in the next second, she added, they're both used to relying on external things to please others. For them, success came too easily. It took countless unknown staff's hard work to bring them to the screen. But they think it's all about them and that those workers can be replaced anytime. They're not exactly wrong. But, she sighed deeply. I added, but without the tree, there'd be no fruit. She said, I want to plant many, many trees. How about you? Seeing my smile and nod, she continued. That's why we're alike. Grace, she doesn't deserve you. The sunlight traced the lines of Selena's profile, drawing out her beautiful contours. For a moment, she felt like a mirror of myself in the world. This part can't make it into Director Ma's edit. David was my first friend. Grace always said that David and I were like brothers. As soon as she told me she was with David, I would rush out to find him. Back then, I didn't even know what being a third wheel meant. The three of us went to the arcade together. We went to the beach, where I drank a few mouthfuls of seawater. We even went to the amusement park together. On the roller coaster, Grace and David screamed loudly. I didn't understand why they were so scared. I was curious. What did fear feel like? Though I couldn't grasp it, the weightlessness of the roller coaster was fascinating. Like flying in the sky. That summer went by fast. Then came autumn, and we were about to graduate. If Grace hadn't blushed under the fireworks that night and kissed me, we might have stayed good friends forever. She was the one who taught me what happiness was, what anger was. Chapter 13. I brought Selena to a high-end local restaurant with a good ambience. I asked Selena, do you know how to play the piano? She smiled and said, are you asking me to perform? I replied, just to earn a bit of seed money. She elegantly tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and sat down at the grand piano in the center of the hall. Her fingers danced lightly over the keys, her fingertips gliding like butterfly wings as the melody floated through the air. Soft as a trickling stream, she closed her eyes slightly, her face bathed in the gentle glow of the lights. After a piece of Liebstrom by Liszt, a round of applause erupted in the restaurant. After talking with the restaurant manager, she happily agreed to let us work here for the night. Tips from a high-end restaurant like this were much better than dancing on the beach. Selena and I took turns playing late into the night, and it was quite rewarding. To save money, we went to a small inn. Whether by the show's design or just bad luck, we bumped into Grace and Martin. From a distance, they didn't notice us. Grace looked upset, walking briskly in front, while Martin followed anxiously behind, the cameramen looking exasperated. Were they fighting? I overheard Martin saying as he chased after her. Can you drop the princess attitude? We didn't even earn that much today. What's wrong with staying here for one night? Grace pushed Martin away, saying angrily. Princess attitude, you're a grown man, and you can't even earn enough. If, Martin snapped. If what? Are you bringing him up again? Are you secretly in touch with him? Grace replied, annoyed. No, you already made me delete him, didn't you? Grace, I'm warning you, if you dare to cheat on me, I won't forgive you. Grace rolled her eyes, saying, do you read too many novels? Only incompetent men are paranoid like this. With that, she turned and walked away. Martin adjusted his hair and instructed the cameraman behind him. Don't include this part in the edit. I watched them enter the hotel next door before heading to the inn with Selena, where we got 2 rooms. I had no interest in crossing paths with them and picking up any bad energy. But that same night, I received a friend request from Grace. She messaged, Colin, didn't I tell you I hated her? Being so close to her, what do you think of our years of friendship? I immediately declined. A moment later, 2 more texts came through. Colin, are you mad at me? Can we meet, please? I was about to decline, but with everything that had happened lately, it's time to put an end to these 22 years once and for all. Chapter 14. Grace asked to meet me at a small seaside park. The dim city lights cast a shimmering glow across the waves. The night was unusually quiet, leaving only the rhythmic sound of the waves and the wind. She stood on the stone steps, her back to me as she looked out over the sea. It felt like a moment frozen in time, overlapping with the past. Grace turned, giving me the same smile she had for the past 10 years. She said, Colin, you're here, but the girl who once felt like a little sun in my heart was long gone. She asked, Colin, are you mad at me? She stepped forward to grab my hand, but I pulled away. I said, don't come too close. Grace looked stunned, as if she hadn't expected me to talk to her this way. Then again, in her mind, I must have always been the fool who was utterly loyal to her. She lowered her head and said in a low voice, I don't like you being so close to Selena. I frowned, looking directly at her. And what's that got to do with you? Who do you think you are? Grace turned her gaze away, saying, you were the one who suggested we create a ship. It was all for traffic, nothing more. I found it both laughable and ironic. Grace, did she really take me for an idiot? I asked. Were the things you sent me for traffic too? Was your tattoo for traffic? Did you sleep with him for traffic? Grace was left speechless. I hadn't investigated her deliberately. Before she and Martin made it official, I had already received photos from a paparazzo. I suppressed the news, hoping she'd come forward and explain, but she never did. After a long silence, Grace finally said, Colin, since when did you become so petty? Aren't we best friends? I laughed, the streetlight casting a rare smile on my face. I thought, it must look awful. Grace seemed dumbfounded. I pinched the bridge of my nose, exhaling heavily, and said, petty. Over the years, I've done everything you asked. You wanted to debut as a top star, so I let you join with invested backing. You wanted a spotless reputation, so I worked around the clock for you. You wanted to outshine the stars, so I fought to put you up there. You knew I hated public attention, yet you made me part of your social media persona. And now, for your image, you dumped the title of clingy fake best friend on me. Do you have any shame? You were sure that I, Colin, wouldn't care about the scorn of the internet, because you were certain I had no emotions, that I wouldn't feel sad. So all these years, Chapter 15, I didn't give her a chance to interrupt. I continued. All these years, you've always taken advantage of it. You've used me to get everything you wanted. I may have an emotional disorder, but I'm not heartless. The flames in my chest rose to my ears, spilling out between clenched teeth. Grace looked at me in shock. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. Was I crying? How strange. I was actually crying. After so many years, this was the first time I shed a tear. I lifted my head, rubbing my brow, and said, if you saw me as a friend, why did you kiss me? If you saw me as a friend, why did you always interfere whenever I had someone by my side? The pain made me swear for the first time in years as I shouted, friends, my ass. I was just a backup and a simp. Grace, stay far away from me. In fact, I knew Grace had turned to Martin for the attention. She urgently needed a way to stay relevant. Her feelings were intense yet fleeting. I also knew the things she'd said to me were for her image, for her career. I was the one who jumped into the entertainment industry with her. I'd seen her get restless over failed auditions countless times. I'd seen her stay awake all night after losing out on an award. Time and again, paparazzi sent me intimate photos of her with male actors. Each time, I caved in, comforting myself under the guise of being her best friend. Just like my mother used to say, Aunt Lou was our family's savior. Without her, we wouldn't have your sister. When you and your sister grow up, you should treat Grace well. Understand? I'd had enough. She wasn't the sun that could warm me, and I no longer wanted to be the one lighting her path. Chapter 16. Grace panicked. For the first time, I saw that kind of panic in her eyes. As if she was about to lose something precious. She tried to grab my arm, but I forcefully shook her off. Colin. She called my name, just like in the past. She said, I understand now. I love you. Really? Let's be together. Okay. Her voice even sounded desperate, but now, all I felt was the irony. I said, Grace, you've really taught me something. I never liked you. I only saw you as a friend. She cried out, Colin, don't say that. I turned and walked away without looking back. Into the dimly lit path. Somehow, Selena was standing there. She wore only a thin vest, looking at me pitifully as she said, I saw you come out, so I got worried. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I wiped the wetness from the corner of my eye, draped my coat over her shoulders, and said with a bitter smile, Thanks for watching that, Ms. E. She looked at me seriously and said, It wasn't funny, Mr. Law. That was impressive. Chapter 17. On the 5th day of the show, Selena and I headed downtown. As the busiest area, it was filled with endless possibilities. At that time, I didn't know that Carolina had been eliminated on the first day. She didn't know how to do anything, and her male partner was also a rich kid. They just stared at each other on the street, and in the end, they got so hungry that they asked the production team for help. But they shared the same mindset, eliminated but refusing to leave, so they pooled their money together and became sponsors of the show. As sponsors, they got a spot in the backstage commentary team. In other words, they sat there, watching everyone's performance, and gave real-time commentary with the audience. Carolina's partner was named Luis. One moment, she was saying, Selena looks so beautiful, an icy beauty. The next, she was complaining, Why is that you woman so close to my brother Colin? Production team, how much do I need to pay to get her replaced? Director Ma facepalmed. This is a live broadcast, please be mindful of what you say. The audience burst into laughter. Their comments even drowned out those of Martin and Grace's fans. People commented, The little princess is hilarious. She and young Master Luis make a cute pair, a perfect match. Some said, I want to know everything about Selena. I love her looks, and her piano playing is so beautiful. Others said, Where's Grace? I don't want to watch this jerk. I want to see Goddess Grace. Chapter 18. Selena and I walked down the bustling streets of the city center. There was a street performer with an old wooden guitar, singing folk tunes. A group of students sang popular songs in chorus. There was even a freestyle hip-hop crew performing on the street. We decided that here, we would start an entertainment company. From our recent restaurant work, we'd saved enough to start recruiting, to find those talented but overlooked individuals. Selena pointed to a homeless man and said, That one's good. His voice has a penetrating quality. He's got hit potential. Yeah, he was the first one I noticed too. Despite his disheveled appearance, his eyes were strikingly clear. That look belonged to someone deeply devoted to music. Stubborn, romantic, Selena added. That drummer and that guitarist over there would fit well with him. She sounded like an old lady who'd been buying vegetables at the market her whole life. I nodded and said, Let's form a band. Market the sentiment. While Selena and I were forming an idea, things weren't going as smoothly for Grace and Martin. After days of dancing on the beach, they tried performing elsewhere, but in a country filled with hidden talent. Few people wanted to watch their routine. Their fights became more frequent. Without the nonsense ship and its publicity, their fans began to fall apart. Then, after the second episode aired, Martin updated his social media. They made headlines again. Hashtag Grace cheated. Hashtag Grace get out of entertainment. That night, Martin leaked unsavory chat records and explicit photos involving Grace and several directors, production company executives, and agency managers. The scandal sent shockwaves through the industry, taking down many notable figures, including some managers for my company. Since morning, Selena's phone had been ringing non-stop. I thought, the family must have had some top execs caught in the crossfire too. Grace, however, still hadn't issued a response. Chapter 19. The next day, Martin showed up in front of us. He looked rather cheerful and greeted me warmly. Hey, Law. Grace's contract got terminated, so I was reassigned to your team. Please take care of me. The audacity. He'd do anything for attention. Martin wasn't dumb. In this industry, who gives their heart fully? He probably knew about Grace's entanglements with others from the start. He just used it to step up. The wrong boyfriend who rose above betrayal fits his persona, doesn't it? Just like before, he leaned in close and whispered so only the two of us could hear. I never expected Grace to be like that. If I'd known, I wouldn't have fought you for her. But I really enjoy taking what's dearest to others, especially after hearing you two had known each other for 20 years. Martin smirked, hoping to find anger in my eyes, but he'd be disappointed. My expression remained impassive. I patted his shoulder and said, Is that so? I thought your hobby was picking up trash. You should get yourself checked. She's dirty. Oh, almost forgot, you're no better off. Chapter 20. Martin, red with anger, was about to retort, but he saw the camera on him and forced a calm smile. He said, All right, since we're on the same team now, let me share my plan. Neither of you are well known, so you're probably unfamiliar with the industry. From now on, I'll be the leader. and you'll follow my instructions. Selena and I glanced at him and chose to ignore him. Meanwhile, in the commentary section, Carolina crossed her arms, complaining to the live audience. Where does he get the nerve to join Colin and Selena's team? But netizens began to discuss. I think Martin's right. They don't know much about the industry. Colin and Selena's idea sounds good, but it'd be hard to execute. Letting Martin lead would be more responsible to these street artists. Is Selena an influencer? I can't find any info on her. There was a reason Martin chose our team, while other teams were still busking and working odd jobs. Our band was already up and running and had gathered a small fan base online, making us the favorites to win. So Martin worked hard for the cameras, buying water for the street performers, taking notes, providing meals, all unnecessary tasks. To the camera, he said, since I'm the leader, I naturally have more work than Colin and Selena. Fans praised, Martin's amazing, bouncing back so fast. Keep it up. I'm in tears. What dedication. He's a treasure. Since he was so eager to work, Selena and I kept piling tasks on him. We gave him all the tedious chores. During the day, Martin danced on the streets to earn money for the band's meals. At night, he edited videos and uploaded them to the platform, diligently replying to fans. After the third episode aired, he gained a new wave of fans. To his credit, he was efficient. Thanks to him, we finally had time to handle our company's business. I caught a ride on Selena's private jet back home. With the recording schedule tight, I only had 2 days to clean up the mess Grace left for the company. My chief assistant and a few managers were swamped with the wave of termination notices from our brand partners. Chapter 21. As soon as I returned to the company, my secretary said, Mr. Law, you're finally back. Grace has been waiting for you here for 24 hours. Should we sue her? I waved my hand. She can't pay the damages. Just prepare a report on the losses. I glanced at Grace in the office. She looked 10 years older overnight, with her hair disheveled and eyes dull. I told my secretary, go get ready. Call a board meeting for the afternoon. Then I walked in alone. When Grace saw me, a mix of resentment and regret crossed her face. She stood up, trembling, her eyes red as she said, Colin, no, Mr. Law, help me. I motioned for her to sit back down. I said, I'll waive the penalty fees and won't sue you. Grace, pack your things and leave the company. Cheap tears rolled down her face as she choked out, Colin, if this goes on, I'll lose everything. My mom saved your sister's life. Couldn't you just explain it on social media? Say you couldn't let me go, that you intentionally sabotaged me, that you hired a hacker to frame me. I glanced at her, not even bothering to respond, coming up with her own PR plan, a terrible one at that. She stood up, grabbed my shoulders, and shouted hysterically, Colin, you're rich. Do you really need a reputation? You're not even a public figure. No one cares about you. Consider it repaying a debt. What's so wrong with being the bad guy for once? What are you even holding on to? Smack. I raised my hand, delivering a crisp slap across her face. She clutched her cheek in shock. All these years, I'd tried to feel the warmth of the world. They always said I was cold as ice. So, as a kid, I'd secretly held ice in my hand. My hand would quickly turn red from the cold. It was freezing. My palms are warm. I couldn't be ice. I was just slow to recognize emotions, taking countless tries to express them. So much so that my joy and pain, too, were always delayed. By the time I felt it, there was no need to suffer. Chapter 22. I frowned and said, Grace, I've paid you back enough. Your dream of stardom should be over. The inheritance my parents left you wouldn't cover even a fraction of these penalty fees. This is the last time I'll help you cause any more trouble, and I'll have security escort you to the police. I looked into her eyes, those once familiar eyes. She finally asked, Colin, you're really letting me go? Grace suddenly seemed to deflate, her head drooping as she left dejectedly. After the meeting, it was already late into the night. Thankfully, we had a plan, PR for those who needed it, firing those who didn't. Just as I was about to collapse from exhaustion, I got a call from Selena. She said, I'm waiting for you downstairs at your office. I walked out of the building. Selena wore a black business suit, a crisp white shirt, with the collar slightly open. She'd probably just come from a meeting too. Her car smelled of the pleasant scent of gardenias. I sighed. So Mizzy and I are on that level now. She turned to look at me, puzzled. What level? I smiled. The level where you come to pick me up personally. She reflexively avoided my gaze. I leaned in close. She tensed up, gripping the edge of her blouse. Click. I fastened her seatbelt. I asked, why are you blushing, Mizzy? She scoffed and turned her head away without a word. Chapter 23. That night, as I closed my eyes, memories of Grace and David resurfaced. For David's 18th birthday, my best friend, I'd saved up my allowance for a long time. He'd always loved watching fireworks and firecrackers. So, I decided to give him a private fireworks show. While they were cutting cake in the hotel's rooftop restaurant, I kept checking the fireworks setup to make sure it was perfect. Unexpectedly, Grace followed me up. She said, Colin, what are you doing here? She walked over, her cheeks tinged with pink. I didn't answer her question and simply said, 5 minutes left, go bring David up quickly. Then she stepped in close, murmuring, I have something to tell you. Surprised, I took 3 steps back, looking at her with confusion. She pouted and asked, what's wrong, Colin? I replied, Grace, we're friends. We should keep a proper distance. Just then, the fireworks burst into the sky. Grace looked up in awe, murmuring, wow, it's beautiful. Colin, did you set all this up? I widened my eyes, realizing with a start, David wasn't here yet. But the next second, a brilliant purple firework lit up the entire night sky. Grace stood on tiptoes and kissed me. As the first firework faded, I quickly pushed her away, but as the second firework lit up, David was there. The fireworks illuminated his disappointed face. No, that's not what it was supposed to be. The fireworks dimmed. David was my best friend. Yet on his 18th birthday, I broke his heart. Chapter 24. The last few episodes of the variety show went smoothly. I had to admit, Martin was a diligent artist, constantly pushing his persona. Even without the ship hype, he garnered a significant following. Meanwhile, the Street Musicians Band account had surpassed $100,000. These street performers were born for music. When they played and sang together, no one could look away. Perhaps conveying the emotions of music to others was the core of their love for it. The world has never been short of shining pearls, and these genuine pearls shouldn't be used as tools for profit. So, I promised the street musicians that the money they earned would be theirs to distribute freely, but they said, no, Mr. Law, we're grateful for this opportunity to share our music with others. We've decided to donate the money to a charity fund so children in underprivileged countries can also have a chance to learn music. I agreed. Selena agreed too. Martin, however, did not. He argued, if we keep the money, we'll win. Are you all crazy? I'm not as saintly as you guys. Fan comments became polarized. Some said, support the donation, it's their money, so it should be up to the band to decide how to spend it. Others said, but Martin worked really hard. Colin has no room to talk. Did he even do anything those days? Now he's acting like the good guy. Martin was the one working hard all along. Broke up and lost the championship. Poor guy. Carolina from the commentary team said, not bad. I support the donation. Positive vibes. I'll donate 30 million. Luis added, little princess, your dad called. He says to stop wasting money. Carolina fumed. What? That old man. Luis muttered, you're a real handful. Chapter 25. Martin looked furious, ready to confront me head-on. He'd probably been waiting for this moment for a long time. He said, Colin, without Grace, who even knows you? Don't flatter yourself. I can't stand guys like you who put on airs. I raised an eyebrow. Watching him fume, he went on. Ever since I saw Grace's posts with you, I knew you were no good. Just because you knew an award-winning actress, you show up on set every day, and everyone treats you with respect. Why? Just because you know Grace? Well, let's see who you are without her. How dare you go after my woman? I cringed. Did he memorize these lines from some corny CEO novel? He continued. Production team, don't cut this part, or I'll have the backers blacklist you. I walked slowly up to him. I said, Martin, I thought you were smarter than this. Turns out you're just another idiot. Boring. He gritted his teeth. I'll make sure you're blacklisted. But I just slapped him across the face. He looked shocked. Colin, just wait. He held his face, glaring around as he searched for his phone. I said, need help calling your sponsors? I'll do it for you. I dialed Mr. Wong's number on my phone. Mr. Wong, the chairman of Martin's agency, and Martin's main backer. After a few rings, the man on the other end answered respectfully. Mr. Law, calling to continue the acquisition talks. Martin looked confused. Acquisition? Mr. Wong said. Martin, why are you with Mr. Law? From now on, Mr. Law will take over the company. You'll be transferred to Winching Entertainment, so do your best. Mr. Wong was about to say more, but I hung up. I said, did you hear that, Martin? From now on, I'm your boss. Either pay the penalty or do your job properly. Martin stammered in disbelief. You're the president of Winching Entertainment, so you were also Grace's boss. I said kindly. Grace didn't have the power to make people respect her friends, but in my name, they'd give her some courtesy. Do well, you've got potential. After that, Martin acted like a changed man. He not only worked tirelessly for me but also posted on social media to clear up previous misunderstandings. He said, Grace and I were secretly dating. Colin didn't know at all. Blame that scumbag Grace. I almost misunderstood Law. In the end, we all agreed to donate our earnings from the show to charity. The winning team turned out to be a pair of badminton athletes who worked as coaches in a club and managed to save quite a bit. As compensation for Martin, I threw him some resources. Let him work a few more years for me, the wicked capitalist. Chapter 26. The netizens discovered my identity 2 years later on the day of my wedding with Selena. The entire elite of the capital attended our wedding. Media coverage was extensive, full of praise for our pairing. Online, people commented, I apologize. Law. I admit my previous comments were a bit harsh. Turns out he was the power behind Grace's career. Artists under Selena and I congratulated us on social media, almost half the top stars in the industry. Of course, opinions about me were still mixed, but I didn't care. Grace was right about one thing: I don't care about reputation. The internet is a volatile place. Interest comes and goes quickly. No one pays attention to one person for too long. These past 2 years, Grace fell on hard times but recently got invited to a variety show. It was called Underdog Comeback, where washed-up stars had to call friends who could lend them $1 million. Grace held her phone, thinking for a long time before finally dialing my number. But at that moment, I was at my wedding, exchanging rings with Selena. My sister and Carolina sobbed dramatically in the audience. The host showed Grace the video from the wedding with an expression full of disdain, as if saying, "Do you really think you deserve it?" Grace stared wide-eyed before everything went black. She fainted. Chapter 27. Not long after, Martin was attacked with acid at an event. The security guards subdued the attacker, who turned out to be Grace. She was yelling, "Martin, you ruined my life. You destroyed my relationship with Colin. You bastard. If I'm going down, you're coming with me." Martin was left with severe facial scars that couldn't be fixed, even with surgery. The story trended briefly. Grace went to prison. I felt a twinge of regret. Martin was, after all, one of our artists. Grace's actions were another loss to the company. Chapter 28. I visited the set to talk to director Ma about filming a new variety show. He said, "Mr. Law, I'm getting old. I can't handle new shows, but I'll introduce you to someone new." I asked, "Someone new?" He replied, "My son. He was a screenwriter overseas for over 10 years, doing well too, but lately, he's been begging to come back and work with you. Kept asking me, 'Oh, there he is. Over here, over here.'" I turned, and he stood in the shade. Time's mark visible on his face, but he still had those warm, smiling eyes. So many years had passed, and he'd grown a beard. David waved at me. He said, "Colin, long time no see." I stood there for a moment, then mirrored his smile and said, "Long time no see." Grace's side story. Chapter 1. Mom would always tell me about the son of the family she worked for. She'd say, "The lady of the house is kind, and the young master is a good child too. It's just that he doesn't cry or fuss at all. He's nothing like a normal kid. Grace, if you ever meet him, you must play with him and make him laugh." Okay. If it weren't for the Law family, the two of us wouldn't have made it. You must remember to be grateful. I massaged her shoulders and replied without hesitation, "I will, Mom." What I didn't expect was that my first meeting with him would come at the cost of my mother's life. She repaid her debt, but lost her life in the process. I lost the only family I had. Colin was like a cold moon, hanging high above, illuminating the endless dark nights of my childhood. He had feelings, but he just didn't know how to express them. From the moment he held my hand and told me not to be sad, that we were family now, I knew. I've met plenty of fake people since then. Their smiles were false, and even their tears could be faked. But Colin, he never lied. Everything about him was genuine. When his little sister snatched his toys, he showed no expression. I asked, "Aren't you angry?" He shook his head, saying, "No, because I don't know what anger feels like." Even when Mrs. Law passed away from her illness, he didn't shed a tear. I asked, "Colin, aren't you sad?" Colin lowered his head, saying, "Sad? Should I be sad?" That was when I understood. His calmness was his way of handling an overwhelming storm within, and I shamelessly exploited Colin's tolerance, achieving my goals time and again. I'm truly despicable. Chapter 2. The day he told me we should keep our distance, I kissed him. I wanted to belong to him alone, and he should belong only to me. Even if we were just friends, I wanted to be his only friend, regardless of gender. I wanted to always be his little son. I wanted to stay by his side forever. So, as the fireworks burst, I kissed him in front of my boyfriend. The fireworks lit up his eyes, like dazzling jewels, but they also illuminated the hopeless expression on another boy's face. He probably didn't notice it. He was furious then, his whole face turning red. He was angry, but I was happy. I'm glad I did it. Now, he only had me. In college, I got into the film academy. If I became a star, then I'd be worthy of standing by Colin's side, right? At least in others' eyes. He'd be the one standing in my light. The road was tough, but I fought hard, and he fought even harder. I did it. I became a best actress. Looking back, my past malice was simply a young girl's pride, clean, pure, and yet, an unspeakable darkness. But in the entertainment industry, that pride grew twisted, turning into sharp daggers that scarred him deeply. Childhood, youth, all the laughter burned away in the cycle of memories. Chapter 3. After I rose to fame, to maintain popularity, I accepted offers from directors and powerful people. It was all for my future, for our future. I didn't think it was wrong. A lot of people did it. Besides, I hadn't fallen out of love, and no matter what I did, he never got angry. Just like before. Then one day, Martin, in a moment of madness, ordered me to announce our relationship to everyone. Grace. I hesitated but thought, why not? It was for the attention. We could break up afterward. It didn't matter. We'd known each other for 22 years. Now, my happiness mattered most, but I never expected him to post our chat logs. Colin became the target of public scorn, but I didn't have the courage to stand up for him. It's fine, Colin's strong. A little trouble won't bring him down. Until Selena appeared. I didn't like her. Dislike is an understatement. From the first moment I saw her, I thought she was just like Colin. People like them, once they commit, are terrifyingly loyal, and I panicked. I finally snuck away to see him. To clear things up, I thought we could go back to the way we were, but he brushed me off. After that, as I plummeted into despair, memories flashed by like a revolving lantern. My career was over. My life ruined. He married Selena. There was no going back. From the moment I first used his lack of visible emotion to get what I wanted, there was no going back. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm shameless and vile. I am not the son. I will forever be trapped in the shadows.